I've decided to live with my mom at our place. Her moving stuff will arrive on Saturday, so please take care of it for me.
Without any warning, I received a sudden call from my husband. He had never discussed living with his mother with me. I haven't heard anything about this. It's troubling to suddenly talk about living together. The spare room is like a storage space. What are you planning to do with it? Besides, today's Tuesday, right? I won't have any days off until Saturday, so I can't clean the room. When I said that, he responded,
It's okay, it can stay as it is. That's the situation, so please take care of it. I'll come over with my mom on Sunday, so please take care of everything.
My husband was making decisions on his own. I felt something cool off within me. If my husband can decide on something as important as living together without consulting me, then I should be able to make important decisions on my own as well. Okay, got it. I replied and hung up the phone. My name is Sarah. I live with my husband, Jeff, who was my classmate in junior high school. After graduating from college, I worked in sales at an IT company. I had lost my father to illness when I was young and lived with my mother ever since. My mother worked at a small company during the day and did piecework at home at night. I never felt any different from anyone else for being from a single-parent family. I was allowed to take lessons and advance my education just like everyone else. After graduating from college and becoming a working adult, I wanted my mother, who had worked tirelessly for my sake, to start living for herself. In my sales job at an IT company, specialized technical knowledge and sales skills as well as building trust with clients became crucial. I studied hard, sparing no time for sleep, and gradually I started to gain trust from our clients. Now I am among the top performers in sales. My salary is directly tied to my sales performance, so it's a great motivator for me to do well. Even though I often don't have time for lunch due to my busy schedule, the effort pays off, which boosts my motivation. I reunited with my husband on one such busy day. I had a client visit scheduled for the afternoon and arrived a bit early, so I was enjoying a takeout cafe latte in the park, watching children play, and spending a relaxed moment on a bench. It had been a while since I had such unoccupied time. While I was lost in thought, someone suddenly spoke to me.
Excuse me, are you Sarah? I'm sorry if I'm mistaken.
I knew he knew my name, but I couldn't remember him immediately. Yes, that's me. I felt it was rude not to remember, so I responded vaguely.
I thought so. You haven't changed at all.
The man wearing a delivery company uniform spoke to me in a very friendly manner.
It's me. We were in the same junior high school class. Don't you remember? I moved, but I'm Jeff, your classmate.
Jeff from junior high school? He's the Jeff who moved? He was bright, good at sports, and popular in class. Jeff, it's been a long time. I didn't recognize you at all.
You haven't changed a bit, Sarah. Still forgetful as ever.
Seeing his unchanged expression brought back a wave of nostalgia. Suddenly I checked the time and realized I was close to my appointment. Oh, sorry, I have work. I have to go now. As I got up from the bench, he stopped me.
Sarah, could you give me your contact information? Let's go out for a meal sometime.
I was surprised, but agreed, and we exchanged contact information. Then I hurried off to my client. After that, we went out for meals several times, and perhaps due to nostalgia, we naturally grew closer, and it didn't take long before we started talking about marriage. I was very, very nervous the first time I met his parents. Jeff's family consisted of his father, David, who worked as a company employee, his mother, Joanne, who was a homemaker, and Jeff himself. After introductions and greetings, I said, "These are sweets from near my workplace. I hope you like it," and handed over a gift. His mother frowned and said, "We all don't like sweets here. We wouldn't eat this." I immediately apologized for my lack of consideration. I should have asked first. I apologize. However, inside I was angry at Jeff for not telling me anything when I consulted him. A small unease remained in my heart. Then we moved to the living room and talked about various topics, how Jeff and I met, our university days, and my current job. His father was very considerate, nodding along and asking questions. The conversation turned to my family, and I mentioned living with my mother and that my father had died from an illness when I was young. His mother's expression changed. "Sarah, are you from a household with only one parent?" she asked with a stern face. Yes, that's right. Her response was, my son's wife was raised in a family without a dad. I would have preferred someone from a normal family. Did you know that kids who grow up with just one parent can struggle with their personality or mental health? It's really sad because they don't have the same love and support as kids with both parents, which can make it tough for them to settle down. It was not something she should have said in front of me. I didn't know how to respond and looked at Jeff, but he was looking outside pretending not to hear. That he wouldn't help me in such a situation. I mustered all my strength and said to his mother, my mother raised me with love. I have never felt disadvantaged because we were a single-parent family. I said it desperately, feeling tears welling up in my eyes.
Joanne, that's quite rude. That's being biased.
Then his father stepped in to mediate.
Even families with both parents can lack love. Sarah has grown into such a fine young woman. What problem could there possibly be?
He gave his wife a stern talking to.
Besides, Sarah is a top salesperson at an IT company. Maybe she even earns quite a lot. Jeff needs to work hard too.
His dad made things less awkward. As we were leaving, he said to me,
Sarah, I'm on you and Jeff's side. There are all kinds of families, so just create your own form. You can always come to us if you're in trouble.
Those words meant so much to me. I had many worries about the future, but if his father said that, maybe things would work out. Jeff and I decided not to have a wedding ceremony. Instead, we arranged a dinner for Jeff's parents, my mother, and us. His father and my mother enjoyed a pleasant time throughout the meal. Joanne, who had hardly greeted me, said during the meal, actually, I would have preferred Jeff's wife to come from a normal family, not from a single-parent one. She continued, children from single-parent families often cling to money because they lack financial freedom. Right after she said that, David changed the subject.
Oh, does Sarah's mother like orange or other citrus fruits?
He ignored his wife's comment and spoke to my mother.
Yes, I love citrus fruits.
She answered in a cheerful way.
I have a friend in California who sends us a lot each year. I'll share some with you next time. Oh, that would be wonderful, thank you.
I was saved by his father's quick thinking. Amid the noise of the restaurant, my mother either didn't notice or pretended not to hear and said nothing. After the dinner, my mother and I walked back through the bustling streets together. Mom, thank you for today. You must be tired, right?
The food was delicious and I had a great time.
She says so, but as the car lights hit her face, she looked kind of lonely.
Sarah, you are my pride and joy. You've grown up to be so kind and admirable. There might be people who say various things, but it's okay. You just need to discuss and decide with Jeff. She might have heard what Joanne said. She probably thought it was best not to cause trouble at that moment for the sake of my marriage and pretended not to hear. I almost cried from her kindness, but smiled to hide my tears so as not to worry her more. A few days later, we completed our marriage registration and started our new life. We decided that Jeff would move into my larger apartment. Jeff was working in a physically demanding delivery job at a transportation company. After we started living together, I prepared hearty dinners to give him energy. As my work became busier with more overtime, making dinner became difficult, and Jeff naturally started to take over cooking dinner as if it were the most normal thing. He often finished household chores like cleaning and laundry by the time I got home. We never formally divided the chores. It just happened naturally. I felt very happy with this natural flow. I never thought Jeff would be so helpful around the house. It really makes me feel relieved. We'd be all set whenever we decide to have kids. Jeff replied, half jokingly, It's actually fun once you get into it. Maybe I should start learning about childcare soon.
I found him incredibly dependable. I thought back to what Jeff's father has said about finding our own way of life. On weekends, Jeff often went to his parents' house for meals. Even though he said it was to treat them, it usually meant me preparing something Jeff suggested because it would make his mother happy. This often involved expensive items like beef for steak or takeout from a popular Italian restaurant. I dreaded going to Jeff's parents' place because Joanne always poked her nose in our business and complained. Making Jeff cook? You don't know how to respect your husband because you only had your mother? Or, Jeff does the laundry too? I can't believe you let him wash even your underwear. It must be because you're from a single-parent family and lack common decency. Are you that desperate for money? Such comments were thrown at me freely, but David always stood up for me.
No, you shouldn't say things like that. You've never worked, have you? Working involves a lot of stress and consideration, especially in the IT industry, which is always evolving with new technologies and products. Sarah is working hard. We're eating such good meat thanks to her, right, Jeff? It wouldn't be the same with just you.
He always managed to lighten the mood. By the time we went home, I felt happier. But then the unexpected happened. While preparing for work one day, we received the news of David's passing. Jeff, who answered the phone, was pale and at a loss for words. I was in shock and disbelief. I regretted not being able to repay David for his kindness and realized I would no longer see his smiling face. Tears came out of nowhere and I couldn't stop them. After the funeral, worried about Joanne, who was now living alone, Jeff started visiting his parents' house more frequently. I joined him sometimes, but the constant criticisms about being from a single-parent family made my visits less frequent. On the other hand, Jeff began stopping by his parents' house after work and not coming home some days. On the rare occasions he did come home without notice, I had him prepared dinner. Influenced by his mother, he started mocking me for being raised by a single parent, saying things like,
"No dinner for your husband who's home after a long time? I guess this is what it means to be raised by a single parent. Now I understand what Mom meant."
Eventually, Jeff stopped coming home altogether. His parents' house and his workplace were about a 2-hour drive apart. Although he was worried about his mom, I was more concerned about how his commute and physically demanding job were impacting him. Then I realized it had been a month since we last saw each other. One day as I returned home, Jeff called.
"Sarah, how are you?"
"I'm fine. Aren't you tired, though?" After a long time, I heard his voice, and it sounded as energetic as always.
"Well, I am indeed tired from the current lifestyle. So about this Saturday, do you have any plans?"
"Saturday? No, I don't have any plans." I was naively wondering if we were going out somewhere after such a long time.
"My mom's stuff is being delivered, so could you take care of it? It's tough commuting from my parents' house, but Mom says she feels lonely on her own. I thought about it and figured that if Mom comes here, it would solve everything. So I decided we should live with my mom. Her moving boxes will arrive on Saturday, so please receive them."
This was the first I heard of any plans to live together. I haven't heard anything about this. It's troubling to suddenly talk about living together. The spare room is like a storage space. What are you planning to do with it? Besides, today is Tuesday, right? I can't clean the room by Saturday without any days off. When I said that, he replied,
It's okay. It can stay as it is. That's the plan, so please take care of it. My mom and I will come over on Sunday."
Jeff's okay often means it's not okay. Has he forgotten about the time he mentioned that to me before our marriage?
"My mom will be tired from the trip, so please unpack her things for her. I have a business trip this Friday and decided to do some sightseeing with a colleague, so I'll be back next Monday. I won't be back until then, so please take care of everything."
So you're leaving your mother's needs to me while you go sightseeing? I felt something cool inside me. If Jeff can decide something as important as living together without consulting me, then I should be able to make important decisions on my own too. Okay, got it. I replied and hung up the phone. Then on Saturday, when the moving boxes were to be delivered, the doorbell rang and I went to the door. The delivery man asked,
"We've got a delivery for you. Do you have a place to put it?"
"How many boxes are there?" The delivery man checked his list and confirmed the number.
"It looks like there are various sizes, but in total there are 100 boxes.
100 boxes? Isn't that a bit too much? Well, it doesn't matter anymore. Yes, that's fine. Just put them anywhere you find space. After 2 delivery men managed to bring in all 100 boxes, I left the apartment. As I was walking, Jeff called me.
"Sarah, did my mom's stuff arrive?"
"Yeah, all 100 boxes. I had them brought inside." This is really irritating. He's always all about his mom. He's such a mama's boy.
100 boxes? Mom sure has a lot of stuff. Please unpack them for me. When Mom arrives tomorrow, I want her to be able to relax immediately. Make sure everything is ready for her.
Why do I have to do it? Sorry, Jeff. I moved out.
What?
He seemed not to understand. So I can't do the unpacking or anything else anymore.
What? What's my mom supposed to do then? She's old and can't do it all by herself. Do you think it's okay to do something so selfish? You can't even consider your husband's family because you're from a single-parent family, can't you?
His condescending tone started again, always bringing up being from a single-parent family. When did he become like this? You were the one who decided on your own that your mom should move here, right? So I decided on my own to move out. I didn't want anything to do with him or his mother anymore. About your mom's stuff, I think you don't need to worry about unpacking.
What do you mean?
He asked, sounding a bit panicked. I've canceled the lease on that apartment at the end of this month. So either way, you'll have to move out soon, right? Your salary won't cover the rent, will it?
Hey, cut it out. What's going on?
The decisiveness in my actions since hanging up the phone with my husband on Tuesday has been impressive, even to me. Immediately after the call, I phoned my mother to explain the situation, then requested quotes from moving companies online. The next day, I contacted my boss to take 3 days of paid leave. When the moving company came for an estimate, they gave me boxes and I scheduled the move for the earliest available date, which was Thursday afternoon due to the peak off season. I started packing right away. I've been in that apartment since I was single and I've tried not to gather too many things, but I still have a bunch of stuff. It seemed like the move was a great chance to get rid of some extra stuff. I packed it into the night, took a short nap, and resumed early in the morning. I somehow managed to finish packing by midday on the day of the move. The rest was up to the movers. On Friday, I called the real estate agent to proceed with the termination of my apartment lease by the end of the month. After I calmly explained my actions over the past few days, my husband was speechless. To add insult to injury, I continued. I'm actually on my way to my parents' house. The only things left in that apartment are your personal items you brought when we got married and 100 boxes that arrived today. I left the boxes unpacked, so you can just send them back. I can't deal with your mommy issues anymore. Being raised in a single-parent family, I must be an inadequate wife for you, right? As you wish, I'll grant you a divorce. Any further communication can go through my lawyer. I'm about to board the train now. Take care. Over the phone, my husband was shouting something, but I ignored it and hung up. Safely arriving at my mother's house, she welcomed me with a warm smile. The next day, enjoying a late breakfast with my mother, the doorbell rang. With a sinking feeling, I answered it to find my husband pleading through the door.
Sarah, we were wrong. Please just hear us out.
Jeff was pounding on the door with such urgency that ignoring him might disturb the neighbors. Reluctantly, I opened the door, and there stood Jeff and his mother. Upon seeing me, his mother immediately started apologizing. Sarah, I'm so sorry for everything. As your mother-in-law, I'm begging you here, apologizing. Please don't talk about divorce. Following his mother's lead, Jeff also knelt down.
Without you, Sarah, we're finished. Please give us another chance.
Looking down at the two of them with a cold gaze, I said, No matter how much you apologize now, my decision won't change. After all the hurtful things said because I was raised by a single parent, you're just upset about losing my income, aren't you? I have nothing more to discuss with you. Please, leave. I stood my ground and said what I had to say, but they didn't budge an inch. If you keep hanging around here, I'm gonna have to call the cops. They scrambled away at the mention of the police. Not long after, our divorce was finalized. According to my lawyer, my ex-husband had angered his supervisor during training and was fired from his long-time part-time job. He made some mean comments about single-parent households without realizing his boss was a widower. With no job, he's been stalling on the divorce, but the possibility of a lawsuit pushed him to finally say yes. Joanne is apparently eager to find a proper family girl for her son, but a jobless man insisting on living with his mother is unlikely to attract many women. The story of our divorce has spread through my former in-laws' neighborhood, leaving them to live quietly and somewhat shamefully. Meanwhile, I've been focusing on my career while living with my mother, who I've worried greatly through this ordeal. Going forward, I want to take care of her. There's also another person I care deeply for, my ex-father-in-law, David. Every year on his death anniversary, I visit his grave with his favorite coffee, finding the surrounding area neglected by Jeff and Joanne. It's likely that they're too caught up in their own lives to care about it. So I clean around his grave, offer the coffee, and say a prayer quietly.